right. Hey, everybody. That's the funky music I have for my new opening. Okay. Very exciting. I know. You can't contain yourselves. It's too good, Chris. It's too good. Okay. So, hey, Corbin is hanging out with me in the studio again today. We'll see if he joins in. In the meantime, this is today's page that was posted, page 205. So, pretty babies. This page is in response to the suggestion of working on it. It's working on it. So there's two ways I could have gone with this, and I put this in the description of things. I could either do it like, so I'm working on it, or somebody striving and struggling towards an objective goal, or the way that I approached this was the opposite of that, where they're working on looking good, and they keep getting interrupted by all of these ladies that keep trying to snatch them up for their cuteness. So, it's a different direction, but that's sort of kind of what I'm trying to do with some of the stories is switch them on their ear, right? So I drew this in the Le Pen set that I bought that said on the package it was supposed to be white ink. No, it's not. They lied. It was black ink, but that's okay. I made the most of it. So, you want to see the original for this page? You can look on Patreon where I post all the originals and pretty much everything. And then, or you can look on, or you can join up with our Substack, which is our newsletter. And each Monday I post all of the pages from the previous week. And because Substack and Patreon are the only places that you can see Saturday and Sunday's pages, there's some benefit to that. That you don't have to look for a thing each day. So I credit the people that suggest stuff, and I also give a little insight into what in the world am I doing and why. So feel free to sign up for those. About contents in the links down below. And in addition to that, I want to thank my major patrons, James and David. Big thanks for long time thanks for their support, and for our new Patreons that are signing up. All you guys are fantastic. So we posted up some more of the audio files for me and my wife reading some of the pages. We'll be recording some more of those tonight and posting those up on the Patreon page with each sequential pages that's posted out. So fun in the sun. Hey, if you got a one-page story idea or suggestion, feel free to put it in the chat. I don't want to type in the chat. It's scary there. And put it in the comments. I don't want it. Then DM me. I don't know. There's lots of options. It's important that people don't feel pressured. If I write it here and people are like, that's a dumb idea, you don't have to worry about any of that here. So today is 3 Prompt Thursday, which means Dee Dee Willingham has a channel where she pulls prompts out of a bag and puts them forth for people to work from. I have one outstanding right now of Marigold, Red Panda, and Periwinkle. I think that's the only one that's outstanding right now for the prompts that I've got from Dee Dee. And I haven't asked her for any in the last little bit, entirely because of the fact that I want to catch up on these. So, Marigold, Red Panda, and Periwinkle are the three words. Now, what's fun about this? Marigold, Red Panda. I'm not doing this in camera, but just give me a second. And Periwinkle. Who's Periwinkle? He's a really nice guy. Periwinkle's blue. Marigold is yellow. And Red Panda, I'll let you figure that one out yourself. So that's our 3 words for today. I'm going to switch cameras up for a second. Bingo. So there's our 3 words that will be building our page from today. Now, yesterday, or the page that I posted today, let's say, I have red pandas in them. Just because, why not? I just felt like drawing those red pandas. And they'll be in this as well. So, in the meantime, I want to show you a couple of books at the start of the stream, as I've been doing on a regular basis. The first one I'm going to show you, of course, is One Page Comic Extravaganza. This is a book we put out last year, it has, I flipped through this. Somebody told me I flipped through this too quickly. So these are the pages that I did that have come from suggestions. People give me suggestions or ideas, and I would draw them in the regular comic format. I've switched to a landscape format now. And so the new book that will be coming out soon, one-page story extravaganza, is going to be in that format, basically on the side, right? So just because I don't think this works enough to fight in regular comic stores, I don't think people can make sense of it. So why bother? Why bother confining myself to just having that as the opportunity for people to find it? Why not do it in a different format so that it can enter into the larger market? That's the theory. So this is Red Pen. This is a mixed digital diddly-do. This is Nicolas Cage. Gives a message towards the virus. Dressed up as the Queen. This is El Mariachi, or the suggestion for this was Antonio Banderas is too sexy. This page is Frankenstein's monster as a 5-year-old boy going to kindergarten for the first time. This is roving horde of vegan zombies. This one's pandemic anxiety. This is back in the days of punk, and it has a whole bunch of different punk rockers in there. This is the first adventure of Sam the Private Eye. So it's a private eye. It's the worst private eye ever. And it, in this case, he's going through his case log stuff, and somebody calls him and says, "Hey, Sam, you stink." And why would someone go and say a thing like that? It'd be a different kind of a private eye movie. Kaiju Rock, Paper, Scissors. The treasure was not what I expected. So as I'm going through this in a society of vultures, the suggestion for this one was really involved. It was in a society of vultures. When a vulture cheats on its mate, the rest of the flock will shame them or attack them until they leave the flock. Very long-winded thing for, hey, I hear you run around with somebody else. Shame, shame, shame. Pebble of Doom, skateboarder's fear. This is a bucket of frogs. Last guy gets fired on his last. The guy gets fired from the Party Factory. Another Sam the Private Eye. Just it goes on and on. So for those that haven't seen that before, hullabaloo. Okay, so our books for today. Here is our first book. It is celebrating 90 years of 1010. So I bought this, and when I bought this, there's this sort of reservation about, never really. It's not collecting any 1010 stories. It's a whole overview of 1010's work. But then as I started reading through the book, and I realized, wow, there is so much to this, and there's so much to his headspace and on his storytelling, and then the level that he would go to for the complexity and the art on one front, and on another front, the beautiful simplification of the art. And so because of that, there's just something about Hergé's work that everything is in proportion, everything is graphically laid out, and yet at the same time, there's this sort of simplified line to it, and has all kinds of extra material in it as well. And talking about the affectation it had on the culture when it was coming out, and how the culture had affectation on the work. And then there's things like some of the earlier stories they had to either remove or change up because of, what we realize today is cultural inappropriateness. But it's one of those things where 1010, if you haven't read any, because it looks really basic, then find a young person to read it too, and if you need to feel that validation. But it's something that people should experience and try out. So here is a plane wreck, okay? And he's taken the source of image of these mountains, and he's taken some shots of crash plane, and he has managed to take these materials and turn it into that. It's really exciting to see creators source, and it's really exciting to see how they take these sources and turn them into something else. This headpiece and this statue are here and here, respectively. Just, there's this piece, there's that piece, that piece, I'm sorry. It's really fun stuff, but, and it's really in depth and really involved, and it even goes into all this marketing and merchandising that's come out of it all. And yeah, but it's a very thick book. My wife says that I have a problem with buying small books. That I don't do it. So this is Rough Justice. This is Alex Ross, and it's his sketch work that he did for DC. And even in his sketch work, you can see that because Alex Ross is primarily known as a painter, but you can see how all of it is there before he starts putting the paint down. And you can see how he has a real understanding of tone, and shape, and form. I always like how he does Wonder Woman. Right? She's just, she's an Amazonian warrior. She should be, tough as nails. So here's, this is him doing the Justice League. It's really complex with all these different characters that have been in there over the years. And man, just as a guy who loves an industry. This is a guy who spends a good amount of time doing his best to capture all of these characters that he's appreciated for so long. I mean, look at this. This is his Justice League. Everybody standing in a pose. I mean, it's just character designs for every character. How is he going to interpret him? It just never stops. For me, there's a couple of little things in here. I've said this a number of times, and I'll say it again. I'm a big nerd for a comic called Legion of Superheroes, and Alex Ross's painting of this. I actually have this up in my studio. It's the one comic-related poster I have up in my space here. In the grandkids' playroom, there's Alex Ross's Supreme picture, which is all the Supremes across the multiverse, spiraling up around this tower as they're all flying up. But it's contextually related to, or referring to, the Legion of Superheroes. But this is the super team that I always loved growing up as a kid, and I still enjoy it now. Cosmic Boy, Saturn Girl, Lightning Lad. Oh, yeah. Shtick. So he's got a couple of pieces where he has these characters in there. And here's another one where he's got, you see his process for the pencils. There's the real rough, loose idea. Then he's interpreted in some more defined way. And then he gets into some colors on it too. It's very compelling how he works. So this is a beautiful book of Alex Ross. I've got a number of Alex Ross books, but this one's just nice because of there's that same thing I showed you at the beginning with the Justice League and the Legion of Doom, or whatever they're called. I can't remember now. Just fun. Just a lot of fun. And on that front, let's take a step to the left. We're going to do it a couple times today. So we've seen Hergé's work. We've seen Ross's work. So we got two different time periods there. This is movies of the 50s. This is a nice Taschen book. Taschen books are always thick as thieves. But this just goes through all these little synopses of all these 1950s films and breaks them all down and gives us the basic plots and the impact these made in our culture. And I mean, Rear Window, come on. One of the most genius films ever made. I would argue that Rear Window is almost perfect, almost completely perfect as a movie. But, to each their own. Other people like Psycho, as the ultimate Hitchcock film. I still say it's Rear Window, bar none. But it just shows you the sort of whole world's impact of all the different cinema that was going on around the planet, and how the West would affect the East, and Europe would affect North America, and each affecting the other again. Okay, and this is the last thing that I had mentioned yesterday. This is a book I bought through the store, The Art of Sideshow. And so this book is specifically sideshow statues. They've produced numerous, Barbie dolls and statues and miniatures and busts and all kinds of different pieces of all these Star Wars characters. And this book collects images of all of them. And many times in the collecting of those images, it takes those statues and it puts them in scenarios, as though here's the Bith band playing in that cantina. But these are, they're kind of Barbies, right? They're like, they've got cloth clothing and so on and so forth, and little ephemera that comes with them. So, and then you start getting into, there's Han Solo in his Hoth outfit, there's Luke in his Hoth kit. And if I switch the side to here, I mean, you can see little gloves and all the, the business that comes with them. Anyways, this is really interesting to me that all of this stuff is produced by these guys. Now, this was what was produced up until this point. They've put out, there's probably enough material to do a second volume of this thing. But when you see, these are small statues, but when you see the sheer gross of material that they do put out, it's completely inspiring, especially if you like the Star Wars. So that's a lot of the stuff that's been coming out over time. A statue of Yoda stabbing somebody. Kid doesn't want that. Anyhow, so that's a nice one too. If anybody wants the ISBNs off these, just let me know. See, here's a little scene that somebody's put together of these Jawa characters and R5D4 and R2D2 and C3PO, etc., etc. That's a lot of fun. It really opens up the mind for some people to be able to, look at ways to display their materials and ways to display their collectibles, and to do so in a more refined way than, when they were kids, but at the same time maintaining that joy of collecting the stuff from their youth. So, all right, well, let's get on to today's page. Today's page is Marigold, Red Panda, and Periwinkle. That's our 3 words for today. So, yeah, that's what we're going to be doing. Now, this is a jelly-plated page that I did. And with this jelly-plated image, I got a title from a magazine, A Brief History of Not Going. In the context of what that means in the magazine, in the article that was in there, it doesn't matter. How I get to use it here. It's just fun to already have this title prepared for me to incorporate into the page. So this is one of the benefits I'm finding from this plating approach, is that some of that texture that you see me try to build up on paper, it's there. It's ready to roll. And I really appreciate that, because it shortens the process down for me. Why are you not sharpening? Refuses to get the point. Hold on. All right, we got another one. Okay, so I'll get cracking on this. Now, because I used the Red Panda yesterday, I'm sort of familiar with how to draw a Red Panda now. But I'm going to take a different approach on this, not only narratively, but also visually. So first off, I want to pull up these letters just before I get cracking on everything else. Now, it doesn't mean filling it all in and so forth, but at the very least, I want to more clearly define contour of these so that I have them, so that now as I get to working up the page, I can more readily see where things are. Like I said, this jelly plating process, what I really enjoy about it is the fact that one of the things that I like is to, push myself creatively. And in that pushing, I want to explore new avenues, and I want to take a chance at moving things forward creatively, right? When I show these books like today, it's important if you're interested in something. I like comics. That's great. I'm glad you do. I like storytelling in general, and I'm not going to lock myself down at just comics. I'm a storyteller, and if that means it's for other projects, then it is. Like one of the two other things that I've got going on in my day is not comics. It's the kind of illustration work that's more static and identifiably children's story type illustration. And in addition to that, there's another sequential book that I'm working on. But if we only look at the thing that we know, we're not going to grow creatively. And so it's important that we study people. Now in the type above the conversation today, I believe I said that it was studying masters. And while masters is, some people refer that to a specific time and place and quality of creator. I'm not. When I'm talking about masters, I'm talking about people that have a good degree of proficiency in some style of representation or in storytelling. And we need to look more into the wherefore and why of that, if it's something that we ourselves want to do. So when I say, learn from master creators, do your best to try to do so. Do your best to try to look for insights like that and to see what you can pick up and glean from how they process stuff. And don't limit yourself. I mean, if there's this whole jelly plating thing is it's a very crafty thing, but it affords me an opportunity to incorporate elements of this type of design into what I'm doing, and I'm eternally grateful for that. That's fantastic to me. So don't hold yourself back. Don't limit yourself to to what you could explore and what you can try to do. So all right, now I'm throwing down some shapes in the foreground. I'm going to start drawing in some flowers across the field, and then we'll see how this all stitches together and comes together for the scene in general. But I think that at the very least, what I'm going to do is I've got the title up here. I'm going to put a couple of panels of the red pandas moving through and establish identifiably the narrative as I go across the page. So periwinkle being one of the things that I'm to be drawing today, I'm going to put that in my page. Now, bear with me for a second. I have these pencil holders because I use a pencil right down to the nub. On my website, there's there's an image of, hey, check out my Patreon. And I have this little dish that says small change on it. And inside that dish, which looks like an ashtray, it's meant to be a change dish, but it looks like an ashtray, but the thing's entirely full of pencil nubs. I used to have a drawer in my studio that was just pencil nubs and dead pens. Just because, I've used a lot of them over time. So in drawing on this sort of jelly plated surface, it lets me build up the image over top of this static background, switching to the white from the blue because it appears better. Bearing in mind that drawing in pencil crayon means you have far less room for making any boo-boos. So, boo-boos, official artistic word. So, I hope everybody's having a good week. I came across something interesting that I'm interested in chatting with people about, but it was just an interesting idea. I'm not a big... I would arguably say that there are certain creators that I think are a little overhyped, you know, and a lot of them are the big 90s push creators. I think that sometimes personalities are bigger than the output, right? And I'm not really interested in people that flash their success or aggrandize themselves in conversation. And a lot of the 90s guys, I kind of feel like do that. But and I find Todd McFarlane somewhat argumentative, but he had a really interesting statement come out that I just came across. Somebody had posted, and it was really compelling. And I'm curious for people's feedback on something. But his suggestion was, he says this is a hill he'll die on, but he says, I can take a book that has art by Michelangelo and a story by my dog and make it a #1 bestseller. But I can't take a story by William Shakespeare that was drawn by my mom and make anything of it. And I thought, well, that's an interesting combination of people at first. That was my first thought. And some of those guys don't live anymore. But, it's an interesting argument. The point is that he's making, of course, is that sequential mediums are animation, comics, any kind of storyboarding or whatever. They're visual. They're visual mediums, primarily, first and foremost. And, artists, second. I thought that was really interesting. There's some truth to it. There's a tragedy in that too, though, because in my exposure to McFarlane's Spawn book that he's put out for years and years and years, he doesn't draw that. He has other people draw it. And so the success of that book that he's constantly flouting as he's so successful, it's not his art that's doing it. It's he's a great promoter, but there's other people's great art in that book. So I found it interesting. I found it an interesting statement, and I find it an interesting statement that comes from a specific person. So there's a lot of classic artists, and I mentioned a number of them yesterday, but there's a number of classic artists that will tell you first and foremost, if you're not telling the story, if that's not the primary effort that you're putting out, you're wasting your time and everybody else's as well. I mean, Toth was the most vocal about that, because Toth would specifically say, if I can't read the story without having to read the words, it doesn't work. Be really aggressive about it. So, but there's a lot to that. I mean, if you want to illustrate books, you got to be able to figure out how to illustrate things. So, yeah. I don't know. That's people are going to find that contentious, but I think it's a strong thing to say. I think it's one of those things where, it's whether or not you like a person. And I've never met Todd McFarlane, bear in mind that. I don't dislike Todd McFarlane. I just don't really see the hype, right? Never saw the hype at the time. I still don't see it now. And Spider-Man was pretty good, but I found his characters gawky. And I never enjoyed the Spawn series. I just, didn't get it. It wasn't my bag. That's all. Doesn't mean it's bad. Doesn't mean just not my bag. And I always had kind of a bigger issue with Spawn fans than the book itself. There's no other book that I've ever come across in years of working in a store that an entire fan base that was absolutely adamantly opposed to trying anything else other than the specific title that they like. I just don't get it. Yeah, I love comics, man. Spawn. Cool. What else you read? Nah, just Spawn. I love Spawn comics. Well, all comics. I've seen all the movies. Those aren't comics. Those are movies. It's like it's a weird subgroup in an industry. Is basically the gist of it. Okay, so I'm putting in these periwinkle flowers in the foreground, and just to make something interesting about the images as they're going to come up behind them, I'm also going to incorporate some marigold in here as well. Now, somebody's going to say to me, Christopher, marigold and periwinkle does not grow in the same place. And I'm going to say, I got toes on my feeties. I got nothing for you. So, Gary says, am I the first one here? You're the first one to say something, but we've had lots of people here. I think. I don't know. I don't pay enough attention to that. I just tend to wait for someone to say something. But you're the first person to say something, Gary. So I showed some books already for anybody that is jumping in late. I did show the Sideshow book on Star Wars collectibles, and then I showed a thing about 1950s films. I showed a 90th anniversary celebration of Tintin, and I showed an Alex Ross sketchbook of DC characters. So lots to go back and look at. And if anybody wants ISBNs for those, just let me know. There are so many good, just great books to try out and to learn from, creators to study. And I'm a big proponent of people trying that out. Try out different things. So this is one of the things I like about this jelly plating approach is that all this wonderful texturous color that jumps in and out the image, that just sort of like steps through. I'm going to engage in more of this as I go, largely because I find some of this marks to be really, really compelling. So little things like this clear line of value, that's just great to me. I can't explain it, but when I try to modify a page in order to make it more complex or more challenging to work on, which is a weird thing I do to myself, I got to figure out not to routinely always put down marks and paint and colors and things in the same place. And this sort of just alters that whole headspace and perspective right from the hop. So, yeah, I'm down with it. I'm down with its bad sound. And we're drawing in a white pencil crayon and a blue color erase pencil, just to build up the composition. And then we'll put down colors and stuff like that as well as we go. So So I mentioned the statement of Todd McFarlane's earlier. He can promote a book, like a book, sequential books sell based on the art. It's first and foremost what moves these books. He could take a book drawn by Michelangelo, written by his dog, and it will outsell than if he has a book written by William Shakespeare as illustrated by his mom. And I thought that was a really interesting statement, especially to come out of McFarlane, who really doesn't draw that much of his own material. So he has other great talent that he gets in there, and he's got all that business stuff he's got to do as well. So it's an interesting statement. I don't entirely disagree with it. I mean, I've also said things like, I think that if you're a writer, you at the very least need to be able to be able to figure out how to thumbnail a story properly. Been lurking since the beginning and hit like already. Oh, there you go. Lurking. Lurk, lurk, lurk. That's nice. The likes, thank you so much for that. Should put on a better show. You're lurking there. So while I'm using these two basic colors to put these compositional elements in, this is periwinkle plants, by the way. One of our 3 words suggested for today's page, periwinkle. So I'm just building up something interesting in the foreground. And then we're going to get some things happening behind. I just might as well just draw in the foreground before. No problem with my eye. But if you haven't tried this jelly plating approach, and if you want to, I don't know, operate outside, your regular wheel house, this might be a way to do it. Because what it sort of does, and adds complexity to the page. I'm not going to complain with it. Hey, Chris, could that pencil get any shorter? Yes, it could. All right. So, periwinkle is the one. I'm trying to think of what the marigold. It's right here too. Why am I looking over there? All right. So, let's put some marigold plants in here as well. Now, again, I said this earlier, and I'm going to say it again. I don't know if periwinkle and marigold plants grow anywhere near each other. I don't care. It's just a picture. Well, if you're going to be drawing the blah, 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 yeah. Of course, marigolds are crazy complex, so that's, it's going to make it more interesting. Well, that just means we're not going to put a lot of them on there. So with the red panda appearance on pages yesterday, and the fact that the red panda was actually one of the suggested words for the 3-word prompt day that we're having right now, I am going to put red pandas in this, but it's going to be in a different kind of a vibe, different kind of aesthetic. So. I'm still sort of reeling from yesterday. This sort of fits into the whole, man, I'm feeling very fortunate, and I'm very appreciative of that. Okay, so there's our first marigold, and I got to put its leaves in and around as well. And we'll put some enhancements to this with the blue pencil in a second, just to pop it out a little bit more. Yeah, it's coming together. It's coming together. Not too bad. Not too bad. I'm gonna put another marigold over here. So look at that. 2 of the 3 words that are suggested for today. In the bag. Keys, jumps, watch your speed. All right, so here is our next marigold. Sorry. Beautiful plants. It's just funny that I got yellow and blue and red in the same 3 prompts. So we're just gonna do something with that. Put another leaf in here. Put one across here. Just putting some interesting shapes and lines and complexities in the space. Just kick it up. But like I said, try new things. Study people outside your wheelhouse. This is what I was talking about earlier. Study more creators that are outside of your go-to stuff. Even if it's just going through a bookstore or a library and just flipping through stuff, or going on the interwebs and looking up different artists and checking out their work and what they're doing, because there's so many things that you can learn and pick up. Like here I am visiting, channels from people largely doing types of crafts, and come across these different processes and just, oh yeah, I can make something silly and messy with that. And as we add some color to this, it's just going to pull things up even more, right? Tintin's one of those artists that I enjoyed very much as a kid. When I was a young man at the school library, I thought it was really avant-garde that they had copies of Tintin by Hergé, and then they had Peyo's Smurfs, of course, and then of course Asterix and Obelix. I loved Asterix so much as a kid, and all that stuff, 60s and onwards. Asterix is hilariously funny, and I'll have to show some of that. Asterix has the funniest names for a lot of characters because it's set during Roman time. It Romanizes everybody's names in the dumbest ways. There's a character in one of the stories called Matter of Factus. He's a scholar. It's stuff like that just cracks me up. But it's about Gauls in a defiant setting, in their small village in the heart of what Romans Roman claimed territory, and they're like, yeah, we're not going anywhere. We're not conceding this. You guys aren't in charge. And I just love that. I mean, that's just fantastic. But the druid that they have, because the Gauls were a druidic people, the druid constantly makes this elixir that gives them all super strength. And so they'll hold off entire legions of Romans with 3 to 5 guys. It's so great. The tiny little puppy that's Obelix has as a pet is, of course, named Dogmatics. It's always trying to bark at them and keep them from getting in trouble. I love stuff like that. Okay. All right, so we've got our sort of foreground of all these flowers that actually ticks 2 things off of our required list here. So the idea being that now I need to make sure that I put in, some red pandas here. And I did that in yesterday's page. One of the cutest things those guys do is they put their hands up and collapse towards one another when they're fighting, and they're just cute as buttons, these little guys. But they're pandas, and they're not as nice as they look. You know what I mean? So I haven't checked the conversation. That's okay. Nobody's saying anything. That's all right. We got a day of people watching instead of jumping in. That's fine. I'm completely fine with that. So I'm going to draw our first red panda in the background, and that way, we're on our way and we're cooking with the gasolines. I'm defining some of these shapes and lines, and like I said earlier, we're going to come through and build up some of these colors and forms. So, but in the meantime, let's get some red pandas in this all up in this piece. You get some red pandas all up in that piece. So we'll put some long grasses. All right, get these little guys in there. So I found a little thumbnail. I got a little thumbnail over there of a red panda that I gotta squint to see what the heck is in that image. It's all right. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. It's all right. It's all right. How's that? It shows up much better in the camera than I can actually see, because it tends to glare out because of having a light directly above it in the studio. The work area tends to flash out whatever it is that I'm working as far as it goes for my eyes. But that's all right. It's all right. So I'm building up all the little elements of the composition with these 2 values, and then we'll go into the next stage of where's how do we pull the image up, and where's our narrative going. And so it's usually, and I know this is counterintuitive to a great deal of people, but it's usually in the process of drawing, which is where I'm really informing myself about the story and what the narrative is going to follow. And it's worked for me so far. I find that there is a degree of revision that I'll go back and do. Like when I post things, I really don't care about spelling errors and stuff when I'm posting pages. It's a habit I got to change, because best foot forward. And, it's always correcting this stuff for my the projects as they come out, or for, when I'm posting them to Patreon or things like that. But when it comes to Instagram, I just want to get it out and keep our routine going. It's been working. This is page 206 in a row. So 206 days, 206 pages. That's fun. It's fun to me because it's just sort of, it's like a nice way of making myself stick to it, right? So here's our first little red panda, and of course I'm going to bring it up a little bit more and put a couple of them in here. And I will bring it up a little bit more in value, pull it off the surface, because why wouldn't I? But I want to try some different things. By tapping out these paint markers after I put the value down, it diffuses them a little bit, and so it sort of blends more readily into the background. And I likes me some blending. So while this might have red pandas in it just like yesterday's page, it's contextually a very different narrative. So fun. And it's, just trying different stuff, right? Like, penciling it on top of a surface that's so heavily modified in the first place can kind of present its own challenges. But at the same time, it enables you to have an extra footing in the race. Do you know what I mean? Because it's let you sidestep all of that base color stuff, all of that early image development. So it's kind of cheating, kind of, they're, we're cheating a little bit there. It's so not me. I mean, other people. I just looked up red panda, and you don't look like a panda at all. We'll make do with it. I'm looking for. Yeah, I don't know. All right, here we go. Where are we at? Okay, just making sure I'm not missing anything out of the chat. So, I don't want anybody to feel like they're being left out. If anybody has any questions about the plating process that I've referred to, or the ISBN numbers of the books that I showed earlier. Some people are calling that being enabling. It's fine. Okay, so I'm drawing one of the pandas very up close to the flower, so just shaking it up. You got to try different stuff, right? Nope, same thing every time for the rest of my life. What? What are you talking about? Crazy eyes. They got the crazy eyes. Paul Pate says, am I the last one here? Yep. Yep, be sure to turn off the lights as you go. What happened? Yesterday is a very, very talkative day, and today's a very quiet day. It's kind of fun. All right, so I'm putting in the sort of different shapes in the face, and I'm doing it by not using necessarily solid lines, but more using value shapes, right? And then I got to hide this guy behind the flower in the foreground because, that's the whole idea of it. These pages, I find that they come fairly fast when I've got that extra footing. You know what I mean? That I outlined earlier, the fact that something like jelly plating allows it to already have a starting position. I tend to find that really helps me out when it comes to actually illustrating the image. So. That down. I'm still missing stuff. I'm so sorry for that, guys. Paul says, that's a wild picture, a bit different than usual. I like it. That's very nice of you, Paul. Well, I mean, it's starting differently, but like I say, I'm always trying different things, right? You got to try different stuff. Who knows? You might hit upon that thing that goes, oh, I'm only ever working this way from now on. Well, you wouldn't have found it if you didn't try different stuff. So we got our first little red panda here. We got our second little red panda in the foreground. We're just having fun with it. But I like the idea of hiding him in behind the flower in the foreground. It's good fun to me. Just trying to make sure I don't squash the flower foreground that I put in. Brand new eraser on that pencil. My goodness. Baptism of fire they're using that guy. Soften that down a little bit. Just making sure I'm not missing anything in the chat. Can't even see it in the video. There we go. There we go. Hand in there. Maybe we can point that out as and then you get the pawn, or the pad, I guess it's called, the padding of the pawn. Where are we at? I'm sorry for missing stuff, folks. Hi, Christopher. Hi, Jane. How are you? Ooh, using a jelly print background. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed we do. I made a whole bunch of different ones, and this is just the one that I picked for today because it was at the top of the pile. Real deep thinking there, Chris. I know. So, yeah, so we've got our periwinkle, our marigold, and our red pandas in here to start off with. I'm going to build up a little bit from this point and just push a little bit on the white in certain spots. They're called beans with razors. Beans. There we go. So if anybody's got stuff coming up or anything they want to announce or projects they're working on, please feel free to bring them up in the chat here. I got no problem with that. You know, it's there's some importance in encouraging one another. So if I'm able to do that to help people out, let me know. So I'm just kicking out some of the white in the. Is that his face or is that? I think it's his face. It is now. All right. Beans with razors cracks me up. Make it pop. Make it pop, kid. Come on, give me a bouncy C. Let's get those razors in there, as Jane calls them. All right. And then the second, oops, I don't want to smudge everything I've already put down. I'm missing stuff. I'm sorry for that. Gonna bust out my old computer and retrieve my samurai tie artwork so I can make some movie posters. Awesome, buddy. That sounds super cool. Look forward to that. Let me know if there's anything I can do to help with anything, Paul. Is that, there we go. Shorten that brow down a little bit. And then let's start putting in a few different leaf enhancements. Not too much though, right? You gotta. There we go. You gotta be like 2 feet by 3 feet. Sorry, no metric system. Your poster is gonna have to be that big? Good stuff. There we go. Now the marigold flowers, I gotta hit those a little bit too, but there we go. It's coming together. Throw some hits around the letters here. A brief history. Not going is our text here that we've got from the jelly plating process. So we're going to use it. Am I missing stuff? No. So do you have to draw the actual posters that size, or are you going to have some printed to that size? Paul, if you're still here. For those that don't know, Mr. Paul Pate got his animated film Samurai Tie accepted into the Michigan Film Festival. There we go. So that's coming together. I like that the other colors are still coming through it, even though the contrast of darker letters with the white around it makes it pop a little bit. Not so much that it loses where it sits in the image. Let's shake my ink up for a second. And Jane says, congratulations, Paul. And Luan says, Page is great. Runsman agrees. Yeah, it sure is. If you get a chance to see that Paul's animation, do so. Very cool. Thumbprints or fingerprints in here. It's fun. I like stuff like that. You don't know how well you can see the fingerprints. Let's pull that up a little bit. There's that. What guys were putting in here, and then there's them of that. Yeah, it won't focus. I'm sorry. Just keep pushing the focus on it. It's all right. It's okay. So this is from an old science magazine that I'd read some years ago. I used this text from. Be sure you catch Paul and Summerstock play Caligula, playing in your local parks in the New Hampshire area this summer. I thought he was doing the Repertory Theater's version of Last of the Great Hot Lovers. So yeah, so if you get a chance to look at any of those books that I was showing this morning, you know, one of the ways that you can utilize these beautiful books of, you know, creative professionals that you appreciate is to sit down with what their output has been and to just emulate it as best you're able to in your own style. When you do that, you're going to learn all kinds of bits of business that they incorporate into their work that you might not have caught otherwise, except for the analysis that you're automatically given through trying to do your own interpretation of the images that they've made, or, you know, it's emulate their work as best you can, however you want to go about it. But right, so that's coming together pretty fun. What am I? Ouch, Jim. Got to make it that big so they can print it, I think. Oh my gosh. Definitely no good. There you go. Yeah, these guys aren't wearing pants either. These guys, I don't know. There might be some relation. Yeah. Well, now we're 10 already. Where's the time going today? It's a busy day today. Trying to get all kinds of stuff done. Get it all prepared for the next meeting with the publisher on this book, and busy. They'd say there's no rest for the wicked. Boy, boy. What does that say about me? Terrible, terrible. Riri says, hey, y'all. Hey, Riri, how you doing? Okay, so the text that was already on the jelly-plated paper has been incorporated into our story now. Works pretty good as a title, I think. It's sort of just a title like that. And no matter what, it's immediately going to affect your narrative if you try to incorporate that. And that's kind of fun. I think that's kind of fun. The last page I did with the red pandas was, here they are minding themselves, looking cute, and working that out. And ladies hide in the trees and stalk them and jump out of the trees and try to snatch them up. Because they're cuties. Cute babies. Yeah. All right. What do you think of that, Corbin? Yeah? Yeah. Corbin's lying down beside me. It's been a busy day for him. Boy, oh boy. First he walked over there, and then he laid down, and then he sat up on that thing and laid down. Well, let's not forget about him having some lunch and then laid down. He's living the dream, man. So these are the marigolds that are asked for as one of the three words, the three prompt words that we're building this page from. So we're just putting in some color to these guys, and it sort of hops out of the background a little bit, but we'll develop that some more. I have no idea how you did that lettering. It looks incredible. So the lettering was already down, right? I'll show you another example of how that works. So with the jelly plating, when you put text down, and you take text from an article or something, and then you incorporate that into your page. Like here's another example. This is from, it just said worlds, and this is how much of it turned out. And I printed it in white on a dark surface. And so, now you've got that built into your stuff. But what I did with this is that I enhanced the blue around it. Now the dark blue of the text here, I went around, like I cleaned up those lines with the pencil, and then I went around it with white, and to make it hop out from the background. Brief history of not going. Sorry, love me some postcards. There you go. Living that cat life, boy is he ever. You turned it into an art form, didn't you? Huh? You turned it into an art form, I said. He's not listening. He doesn't listen half the time. So I'm just taking the Posca paint markers, and I'm outlining each of the petals, and then I'm tapping it with my finger because I'm classy, and it smudges it sort of inward. And so when you look at petals, flower petals, you'll see oftentimes that they'll have a bright spot on that petal, generally on the rim or the edge of it, and that value recedes into the body. So that is what this effect kind of gives me. But yeah, Jane says it's mostly the help of the jelly print, Jim. Yeah, definitely. Not any skill on my part. She's completely correct. So if you just take text and, I can do, oh, hi, Corbin. You coming in? Hey? Say hi to everybody over there. Right here. Say hi. Hey, say hi. Right over here. Oh, he's climbing in. Okay, he's climbing. Come on, hurry up. Hop up. Or don't. That's fine too. I'll be like, hey, attention is not being paid enough to me. How come every time I come and hang out in your studio, you turn around and do some art? Does that sound like you? No. No, he's more of a Jerry Stiller. Yeah. Love you, Chris. Hey, thanks. Hey, Corbin. Everybody's saying hi to you. All right. This maneuver I call petting the cat with one hand and drawing with the other. That's what this maneuver is. And he thinks he's helping. Pick a direction you're going in, pal. Okay. So the marigold's yellow base, the periwinkle in the foreground is a blue. So between the two, yeah, he's a handsome guy, isn't he? He's a good-looking cat. We're really lucky that both of our cats are pretty good looking there. Baby's over there sleeping on her chair. She snores. Don't tell her I said that. Okay, you helping? Climb right in there then. Good Lord, guy. Okay, sit down. Sit. Down. Ridiculous animal. Anybody that has cats knows that this is what you go through. All right, you do good? Relax. So I got a blue and a black. Now the black, I'm gonna put a tiny bit in here, and it should pop. Leave that alone. Okay, there we go. I wish I could feed my guinea pigs to Corbin. Oh, ew, how many do you have? Did you have less if you fed them to Corbin? Sorry. Did you eat guinea pigs, pal? I don't know what that is, man. I suppose so. Here we go. Yeah, how many guinea pigs does Paul have? That's the magic question of the day. How many guinea pigs can one private eye storytelling sucker have? So I'm trying to enhance the blue inside the periwinkle without actually coloring in the blue inside the periwinkle. I'm enhancing the lines that are dividing the leaves, and then we'll go from there after. But this is just the first way that I'm cutting into it. So, right, Corbin? Going to become known as that guy whose cat sits in his lap while he draws. Way to go, Corbin. That doesn't help me. Hey, that doesn't help me. All right, what am I missing? I was so loved today. I had two mouse heads at my back door. Where the rest of them went, you gotta ask Skeezix. Is that you named your cat Skeezix? Oh, that's fantastic. Is your other cat named Walt? Skeezix is my cat. Good for you. Two very stinky pigs. How many guinea pigs? Yeah, two stinky ones. I used to have a car that brought my mother birds in her shoes. Oh, a cat that brought her mother birds in her shoes. When Baby was really young, we were living in this apartment here in London, and apparently the guy had real problems with mice every year. And for those 2 years that we were there, he didn't see any mice at all. And I'm like, let me tell you why. Because I lived downstairs and he lived upstairs. And the collection of mice waiting for me at the door each day went on for a little while. And then eventually, mice knew, stay away. And the year after we moved, wouldn't you know it, like that summer comes along and they're all back, like in droves. Like he had a huge mouse problem after that. So it's like, I don't know. Jano has only one cat, is my little Skeezix. Yeah, it's gifts. It's actually gifts of love when cats bring you their kills. It's providing for, the group. Especially female cats. Female cats are better hunters than males. Males like Corbin spend his entire time sitting on my desk rubbing his face against every pencil I've ever owned. Look at this goofball. What is he doing? Corbin. There you go. That was a treat. Yeah, you sure are. Yeah. Okay, so I've got some little contrast bits of information in here. And I tamp it down each time with my finger like that, just so I don't have to wait for it to dry or be overly concerned about a smudging or anything like that. Of course, it makes my one finger, completely black at the tip, but that's fine. Yeah, what? Yeah, that's Corbin, all right. That's exactly what's going through his head. Hey, is there anything in here I can eat? Did you know that I'm a cat? All right, so that's coming. So if people want, I can do a little show about the jelly plating process and how I'm going about making these pages that incorporate the text. And then that way, and some of the decision-making process in establishing what images might go down in my head. Like I've got a bunch of stuff prepared that I can do some of these. I made a stack of a baker's dozen of these, and I've gone through the majority of them, or at least half of them already are gone. So, we can do some more. What do you think, Corbin? Would you want to do some more? Oh, cat. Postcards are great because they give you a nice, really fine control on what it is that you're doing, and I like that. I like that a lot. So, you know, um, I would encourage people trying them out for sure. Right? So it's a very different approach to a similar subject matter as I did yesterday, but with the red pandas in both pieces. The difference being is that the structural narrative is going to be quite different from yesterday's page of crazy women, red pandas, nature uppers. Right, Crook? There we go. What we got? Once you start jelly printing, you need to keep it up. It creates so much depth in your pieces. Yeah, I gotta agree with that. There's so much that it adds to your work that you might not have necessarily been so easily able to prepare. I mean, I'm still gonna do things like monkeying around with tapes and washes and things like that on surface, but the jelly printing, the jelly plating, sorry, is a lot of fun too. So, right, kid? All right. Where are we at? It keeps up the visual interest. Yeah, there's you can find different opportunities that you might not have realized that you had when you do things like this. And if how do I build some complexity in my artwork without having to go through the whole process of building that up with layers and layers and layers and layers, and it's a quick process to just knock it down in this regard. So Jim Luana's question of the day: would you cross a picket line in the shop, let's say at a supermarket, any picket line? Yes, I would. And it's got nothing to do with not being supportive of the worker. Pardon me. Unions picket. Regular people don't. And if regular people did, they, it's probably because they're becoming a union. I appreciate what they're trying to do, but it's not going to make I've never believed that picket lines are ever going to make the impact on the working class that protest does. And protest of, I'm not doing this. I step away from the system. I'm not going to engage in it. I know it's a really ridiculous way of looking at it, but any picket line, Jane says no. Yeah, see, I think that if you're working at a place and conditions are so bad that in order to enact change, you have to step to the side of what you're doing. And that's hard. And that's hard because, okay, so you get a couple of changes made and you go back to work for it's the same system. It's the same inadequacies. You might have had a couple of them rectified, but it's the same system. And, it's not, I say burn it to the ground. It's not enough. Set fire to the streets. Be like the French and tear up the sidewalk. depends on your picket line. Is someone picking a store for pride stuff? Yes. If it was the business mistreating employees, no. Picket lines are meant to impact the employer. Leave. And I don't mean like, you don't like it, go someplace else. I mean, leave for yourself. And if there's a big strike coming up, make applications at other places. And because even after you picket and even after you strike, that it's still not really going to change, because if they had the ability to truly change without having to be forced to, you wouldn't have to picket. I'd sooner see those things die. Which is ridiculous. I know that's ridiculous, but I can't think of any other way other than proper revolution, proper attacking of the system, and sticking with it. Like this whole Occupy Wall Street thing. Why did that stop? The problems haven't stopped. Well, we'll give you these concessions. Oh, okay, good. We're gone. There needs to be more responsibility than that. And in a world where people are very pro-union, is it disagreed upon? Yeah, that's a disagreeable statement, but I don't know. It's tough enough out there trying to make a go of it without having to make a go of it in one contrived system or another. Spent years doing that. It's not enjoyable. I don't like that people in general are not getting full-time employment opportunities, as the employers don't want to pay full-time benefits. So people hold 3 or 4 part-time jobs and no benefits. Everyone deserves health benefits and pensions. That sounds good. I think that's a great idea. I think that's great. I don't see them doing it. And, they're just not. The owners of these companies, the owner class does not care about the proletariat class. They just don't. They never have, and they never will. It's just how it is. The lords have the peasants on the land. And that serfdom culture of all these people being servile to the lord of the land, and they get a piece of their pie. Well, it's no different in capitalist culture. It's exactly the same. You work hard in your labors, and you're rewarded a modicum of the amount of monies that are generated by your efforts. If there was a place, like, let's say, if you work at a place where you've got 20, 30 people working there, and X amount of those people aren't going to do enough labor, and X amount of those people are going to do more labor than is asked for and more labor that's given, wouldn't it be more beneficial to somebody, say, having a structure set up where they reward properly the people that are putting through the efforts for the returns, for the growth of the whole thing? Wouldn't that be nice? See, this is idealist nonsense talk at this point. Because it's this, owner-employee driven businesses are few and far between. You really got to get along with the other owner employees, that's for sure. But I mean, that would be nice, but if you've got a hard time paying your rent, but the person that owns the place that you work at, even if there's only a dozen of you, has, multiple things, multiple places that they can reside or own, it should be top down, right? The accommodation of things. 70% of Metro employees are part-time, and it's a higher paid positions that are full-time. Little guy stuffers. Yeah, so tear down the system. Labor has proved their worth over the last couple of years and deserve more than fat cat CEOs. Yeah, eat the rich. Sorry. Tax the rich. Not far enough. Eat them. Anything over a certain amount should be highly taxed. Oh, yeah, definitely. No, tax should be, and there's no certain amount. Tax should always apply to volume. It's not at a certain point it should go up. No, the more that you make, the more that you pay. It's as simple as that. Is that an incentive not to make a lot? Yeah, sure, why not? But at the same time, it's an incentive to be a part of the situation. It's idealist nonsense, but we cannot give up and lie down. No, but unions are, in my mind, effective enough. Let's keep fighting the man. I'd settle for equal taxes. Yeah, equal taxes. Eat the rich. Yeah. So I had so I put together a book proposal. One of the book proposals that I put together and with the supplied images, and I tried submitting it at one time to a couple of companies. And one of the proposed ideas I had was specifically that, tearing down the system and eating the rich. Or not necessarily that they're eating the rich. Some people are. They're not necessarily are good guys. But the system is destabilized and they're trying to integrate a new system. And in the process of doing so, reevaluating the old system. And so as these heroes have gone about and torn down some of the big corporate structures, and some of these obscenely wealthy people are displaced from their accommodation because there's so many people starving, and then these people living these opulent lifestyles. It has to change. And I never heard I sent that to 4 places and never heard a single thing about that. Like, that was just, I put that out and people just went, nope, threw that away. It took on me crickets. Gene's like, you got me going. There we go. The pressure has to stay on for anything to happen and get better. Thank you, Gary. I may not see a change, but I can hope for better for your grandkids. Yeah. Barbara, God save the king, for he grants us leave to serve him. His praises sing and grant that we may deserve him. Who counts the cost? The cattle and men to be lost is no small thing to serve a king. There we go. There you go. Yeah. England as a monarchy. Yeah. You can't. I just don't agree with a system where some have so much and some have so little. It's so unfair. It's so grossly unfair. And, when we have a system that everybody's worried about their own accommodation and not worried about each other, that stinks too. But when you've got people that have enough they can focus some of their time and efforts on sending themselves to outer space to hang out with William Shatner, those people should be shot. Excerpt above is when Tom Paxton from When Princess Meet. It's a great read. And we have Justin and what's her name separating. Who's Justin? Oh, yeah, Lori told me about this yesterday. That's Pierre Trudeau Jr. His wife and he are separating. Who cares? Good for her. Run, girl, run. Cash in as you do. The corrupt family that they are. Yeah, I don't know, man. There's no easy answers. When you gotta be able to afford education, you should wonder about why that exists like that, right? Love it. It's their life. Yeah. Why do we care? Why do we care about what's his face and his wife there? Unions are intended for collective bargaining. It's a good concept. It's a great idea. It's just, I don't know. Hot button political issue there. That's what we got going on here. And it's hard, it's a hard pressed thing. Okay. And any given system, what do we say as creators and what do we say as individuals? Right? You're hard pressed in a system that has so many complications and you have so many people from so many differing viewpoints and locations and levels of accommodation. I've thought about this, having stepped into this whole social world through the interwebs, which has people from all kinds of different localities and means. And yeah, you're hard pressed to truly. How do you quantify it? Do you quantify individually, or do you quantify yourself in context of a larger narrative that you're either beholden to or trying to understand and therefore prop up its ideology in your own head? And we all do it on whatever levels that we do it. And at the same time, if I were to put on what's that orange guy's name? If I was to put on one of his hats, people would, here's assumptions and associations because you're wearing some guy's hat, where, maybe you just like red hats. But, I don't see it any different than putting on any other hat. They're all the same to me. There's so much out there about what's wrong and what's right and who's going to answer it. And I think the biggest thing that we can do is try to enact some sort of aid and support on a local area. And beyond that, everything feels bought and paid for. I don't know where I'm going, but I knew where I've been. I made up my mind. There you go. I'm about to start bargaining with our employer's contract ends in June. If you haven't guessed, you're a unionist. Yeah, that's fine. I'm jealous you know where you've been and you have a mind. That's awesome, Jim. Nice. I tend to ask where's my mind a lot, but that's because I listen to the Pixies on a fairly regular basis. With your feet in the air and your head on the ground. So now I'm putting in some trees and because the white is already down on here, it's kind of fun that the sort of the leaves kind of blend into the text now. I'm having fun with that. But just adding in these different elements back here, just like I was saying before, you're just sort of adding in a little bit more complexity and shape to your overall composition. Here I go again on my own. Is that a bad era of music or the worst era of music? I don't know. That's the era of music that has the most sexual innuendos of any period of time, eh? There's and you don't even realize it until you as you get older and you look back on some of the songs from that time period that you're like, oh my God, is everything about sex? Did Foreigner write any clean songs? I think that the world is going to be radically different in the next, let's say 50 years. In 50 years from now, there's going to be some really different systems in place here. And because there's no choice but for that to be the case. Because this parasitic way that the world is working right now isn't going to last. It's just not. There's not going to be enough people to sustain it. Really love your peach is going to shake your tree. There you go. The boss is home. The boss is home. Time to cha-cha. Thanks, Christopher. Take care. Bye, Barbara. Perhaps we just look to the elders of hairband metal for wisdom. I like that. I like that a lot. On music, Mary watched American Graffiti for the first time last night. And how did they afford to license that soundtrack? Well, I mean this is really before the big hits because everything you had coming out in that time period was tons of songs. 1969 with Robert Downey Jr. and Kiefer Sutherland. I mean, that whole soundtrack is just chock-a-block. All of those soundtracks with just nonstop music from 60s, 50s, 40s. Now it's all money. Now the music companies want money from it. But back then they didn't ask for so much. So lovey-dovey all the time. There you go. Corbin has consistently been sitting here and helping me the entire time I'm trying to work. And that's just great of him. What do we have? Now 46. I think, so I'm going to come in to this panel and add in a bunch of elements that push it farther. Like start pulling out some greens into it. And then that way it should pull the foreground really close and then push the planes farther apart from one another. So we'll see how that goes. But I hope I haven't offended our union friends here, and it works for unions. It works for the people that are in them, but it doesn't work for everybody that isn't in one. So do we unionize everything? I think the owner class will just continue to walk away. Invest in, money get rich schemes through banks and predatory lending and, foreign countries, and because they're just going to go where it's easy for them to make dollars. Yeah, we got a realtor in this, or a property owner in the city here for apartment building that he just evicted all of his tenants. He just evicted everybody in 2 apartment buildings for improvements to the buildings. And so he's kicking 60 apartments out into the street, something like that. And a lot of these people are low income. He just wants to make more money. It's not going to improve anything. It's terrible, but this is the kind of silly system we're living in. We'll fix it. It'll get fixed eventually, but not with the systems as they exist right now. So I'm taking this tree that I started putting in here, and I'm just pushing it up farther and farther and farther into the composition and behind the letters. I don't know. So there's how that's coming together. I think that this is going to end up being a couple of pieces of paper for this page, just because 2 panels, which is really what I've afforded myself as far as this goes. It's not a lot of space for a narrative. It depends on the narrative and what I can get across. But we'll see. We'll see if I can figure out some way to summarize an idea. Then we'll see where I take it next. But I've had a lot of fun working on this surface, and maybe we'll sit down and we'll talk about how to do some jelly plating, and how to, so that it can be incorporated in page making. Tangent. I was listening to Billy Idol's "Eyes Without a Face" today. I just realized it's literally about a serial killer singing to a dismembered body. Rents are terrible here in Phoenix, like everywhere, and yet every time you see a new apartment complex being built, there's a sign promising luxury living. Oh yeah, we have bylaws in London that the city hall is constantly trying to enforce, that you're allowed to build this apartment building if X amount of units are for low income. And it's phenomenally exciting to hear all the news reports about how hard these people fight for that not to be the case when they're doing their buildings, or we'll just go build elsewhere. Eat the rich. We need to figure out how to incentivize building affordable apartments. Force them to. Tear down the fat cat. Bourgeoisie, devour them, throw them to the streets, revolution. I don't know. Listen, I'm going to sign out for now. So tomorrow is my open day. Fridays I thought would be fun for to have people come in as guests. So the offer is open. If there's anybody that has some interest in being guests, I can only fit X amount of people in at any given time. But if people are interested in the idea, let me know. Let me know, because I'd love to send you the link to come and join in, and we'll talk about what each other are doing and some art and some stuff like that, and ways for us to tear down the system and build a new one. No, let's just leave that. Let's just leave that as it is. Before I scare everybody. Chris is insane. Yeah. He draws little bears. Yeah. So, all right. Corbin, you want to say anything as we head out? Hey, at the end of the day, I got nothing. There you go. Thanks, Corbin. Nothing. What a waste of time that was, buddy. Yeah, look right in the camera, right here. Look right in the camera. You're just settling in at another place. What a ridiculous animal. Next stream, we all discuss La Revolution. Yeah. Maybe. In the meantime, I'm going to sign out. FBI, Gary Hodges, Phoenix, Arizona. There we go. I'll sign up for now. I'll be back at 2 o'clock tomorrow, EST. And if you've got any one-page ideas or suggestions, let me know. By all means, please do. Or any materials that you want me to work on projects with, by all means, please let me know that as well. And in the meantime, I'd love to see what you're doing. And if there's anything that these suggestions or ideas that you've seen me do that you're interested in doing yourself, go for it. I'd love to see that too. In the meantime, I'm going to sign off for now, and I'll see you at 2 o'clock tomorrow. Bye for now.